You're live now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Innerstand2Ascend show. My name is Olivia Ezayana, in case you don't know me yet. And how do I describe myself? Maybe I will say a few words in case you're seeing me for the first time. So basically, I was born as an indigo child with certain codes in my template awakened, and that's allowing me to see really crazy things, do really incredible stuff. And here I am to talk a little bit about it, to share my experience with you, and be of assistance to anyone who may need it. So, and the way I like to call myself is basically the guardian. If we look at it this way, we are all guardians, and those who know me are also aware of the fact that I'm in contact with different guardians, and this could be perceived as the ET races, but actually I like to refer to them as my interstellar family that is always with me, and I am a part of them. They are a part of me. The thing that actually I feel really much kind of guided to share at first is what it means to be a guardian and like who is actually a guardian. So the definition that I would give to a guardian, and I think that many of you could start calling yourselves guardians from now on, because I would say that a guardian is a soul which is basically walking on the path of the Christ, feeling that there is a higher purpose for which they came here on this planet, and they are here to somehow make this contract, set this contract in motion, and go ahead with it. So I identify myself as a guardian because I feel like I have a mission to do here. And for about 2 years, it's been mainly focused on the healing facilitation. But as I've been progressing with that, there is this more of the inner urge to speak and to share my knowledge, to share my experience, and most importantly, spread my frequency to these souls that are actually feeling like they want to pick up this frequency and see where it's going to take them. The reason why you are all here with me is actually because our higher selves already agreed for it, that maybe I'm here to give you some kind of precious information that you may use for yourself in the future. So there I am. And I guess that's what I can say about myself, that I actually struggle a lot to talk about myself. That's what I've been working on for quite a long time before I started to kind of manifest a certain opportunity where I can just freely speak to people. And I was saying like to my guardians, like I want to speak to people, and there I am on People for People show. So that's how interestingly the pathways have crossed. However, I'm here to share certain information that some of you may find surprising, or maybe actually not surprising at all, because you will have a feeling that it's something that you knew within yourself, and that actually it's something that what I told you or what you will discover in the future, that is just something that needed to kind of be a reminder to you, but it's something that you already knew within yourself. So there will be many topics that I will cover up in the upcoming weeks, and they will focus on different sorts of topics, which will include mainly the plasma, something called the Crystal River Host, which is a wonderful opportunity for this planet to make its ascension to a much higher frequency spectra, to actually a totally different plane, to make its transition to a place that we can't even imagine how beautiful it is. And that place is called the Median Earth. but this time we will focus on something different. Today I would like to invite you to listen a little bit about something called the dueling spirals and the timeline split, which is actually taking place in over a week, because there is a certain energetic event which is called the timeline split, or kind of like the template separation, however you would like to define it. There is something happening, and it's gonna take place on the 8th and the 9th of November. And I think many questions have arisen after I spoke a little bit about it, and it feels like there's a little bit of clarification that would be good to make and to explain some things once again. So those who have never heard about the fail-safe hosts, about the plasma frequencies, about the two dueling spirals that are fighting on this planet and within us as well. So those who have never been familiar with this kind of topics, so they could get a little bit of understanding. And this way we can create a new wonderful vision for this planet. So maybe I'm going to start this way. When we talk about timelines, people perceive it in different ways. We tend to kind of fantasize that when we think about changing timelines, we are like, wow, we're just going to wake up and there will be a totally new world in front of us, or we are going to get through a Stargate and totally new world. That's not exactly the case. When we are referring to the split of the timelines, or like changing the timelines, the truth is that people are changing timelines all the time. When different psychics that people go to, they could see their future, they are actually seeing the probabilities, that probable timelines that certain people are aligning with. And that is leading them to being able to see what is going to happen on a certain timeline if they make a certain choice. And that is what is happening to all of us, actually. I say that we change timeline all the time because actually, first of all, when we look at the time, it's simultaneous. So the future and the past, it's all just from our perspective. The reason why we perceive some kind of a memory as the one which happened in the past is because of certain genetic time codes which are in our DNA template. That is allowing us to think of certain moments as those which already happened and to create a projection of something that could possibly happen in the future. So that's how it works. And once we start to, I've been having that a lot lately, that I wake up and I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'm in a different world. Everything seems to be the same, but the energy is just different. And then I kind of tune into that and I feel like, well, I think I've been sleeping for a few years. There are a lot of different shifts happening on the world right now. So if you kind of feel like the time is either too short or too long, the timing is a very strange thing right now, as we are coming closer to the split. And especially after this very, very intense frequencies of the eclipse that were 2 days ago, if I'm correct, there's a lot going on. So when we are about to face a certain choice of timelines, that actually means we are not exactly going to suddenly change a reality field we live in. When we are choosing a certain probable timeline, that means all of our choices and all of our frequency is aligning with the energy of that timeline. You can kind of have this vision that you're standing in the forest. I like to create visions with forest because it just, the energy of the trees is bringing so much peace. You're in a forest and there is a pathway leading straight, but suddenly it splits and you have to choose whether you want to go on the left side or the right side. And that is the choice that we are all making on the level of our higher self. Some of us may start having different kinds of visions, feelings, sensations, that there are certain changes happening to us on a personal level, and that we start to see more. Many people lately that I've been working with have been telling me that, for example, they were seeing different light formations, such as orbs of light. This is already meaning that you're kind of starting to see more than what is displayed in this hologram, because it's pretty much being displayed to us. There is so much more that we can see, but we are kind of being locked. Anyways, when we are about to choose a timeline, that means we are choosing a frequency that we are going to be aligning with. And that certain frequency starts to flow in our bodies, raise our oscillations. And just for clarification, because that's a big mistake that is being kind of said in the spiritual communities. When we speak about vibration, we are talking about the magnetic side of our bodies, because we are electromagnetic. So the vibration is magnetic. So that means the quicker you vibrate, the more energy you attract. But the higher you oscillate, meaning the more of the electrical thrust you have in your body, that's actually when you raise your frequencies. When your vibrations become lower and you start to go kind of into this peaceful mode, but your oscillations are going faster. So you're able to produce more of your own frequency within the body. So once we start to raise our frequencies, actually aligning with the timelines is kind of happening by itself. There is no need to spread any kind of fear about it. As I said, changing timelines is happening all the time. So even if something didn't go right at a certain moment of your life, you have always the power to fix it from the moment of the present and choose the right path for yourself. We are coming to this very interesting time in November when there is kind of like this, it's referred to in the Keynontic science teachings as the separation of the templates. And in order to understand this more, it's good to kind of explain what's going on here with those two spirals fighting against each other. And it's actually pretty much aligned with the mathematics. So we've got two spirals. One of them is called the crystal spiral, and the second one is called the Fibonacci or the Metatronic spiral. Fibonacci because it's the fib without the chi. So the crystal spiral is basically, it's based on the Christ code. And this code is having the encryption for all the 12 dimensions in the universe. So once we have the 12, it's actually connecting us to the Christ consciousness. And the main difference between those two spirals is that, first of all, the crystal spiral is much more expansive. It's the binary spiral. That means that with each of its expansion cycle, it's going like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. It's expanding 2 times, which with each of the cycle it's making. So it's very, very powerful. The Christ spiral is basically the spiral of creation. Each one of us, if we were basically having all of the fetal integration in the right way without any distortions, this Christ spiral would literally create this divine blueprint in our bodies, where our bodies would be eternal. There would be no such thing as death, since it's a very artificial condition. And the Christ spiral would be basically expanding, causing our body to grow and to accrete more and more frequency. It would allow us for ascension whenever we would feel like it's the time for us. The main thing that is very, very important when it comes to understanding what is the difference between the Christ spiral and the Metatronic spiral is that the Christ spiral has the direct connection to its center. That means that once it starts in a certain point and it just keeps going outward, it can also go inward. And it will end up in the same point, which is the point zero. And when we speak about the point zero is the point of creation. That's where the source starts to kind of like create this first point of vibration from which all of the other things come into existence. The crystal spiral is basically the energy from the source, if we put it in very simple terms. It's basically expanding outward, but it's also contracting, because the main mistake that our lovely scientists are making is that our universe keeps expanding all the time. And who knows what's gonna happen in the future, whether it's just going to explode because it's gonna be too big, or what's gonna happen here. The thing is that the universe, just like us, it has its expansion and contraction cycles. And that means that there is a certain point where the universe has expanded enough, and then it's coming back to the source. So it starts to contract, and this way there is a natural energy exchange between the source and the creation. That's how the crystal spiral is working. And actually, the crystal spiral is actually giving life force to not just our bodies, but like galaxies, planets, solar systems. Actually, it's been shown many times that I don't exactly remember in which kind of works who actually showed that. However, if we have the sun, and there should be actually 12 planets around it, there is a natural energy exchange between the sun and the planets. And that's how the whole galaxies and the solar systems are keeping up eternal life. The planets could also be eternal. And if you kind of course, if our solar system was in the right proportions, if you wanted to draw like from one planet to the other, like a spiral, it should have the measurements of the crystal spiral. So our solar system is not really flat, it's actually like a spiral that keeps circulating energy. The Metatronic spiral is much different, because actually, first of all, it's much smaller. It's going with the numbers of the Fibonacci, so you've got the 1 plus 0, which is 1, then 1 plus 2, then 3 and the 5 and the 8 and the 13. So it's just kind of like adding the previous number to it, and that's how it keeps expanding. So we can see that it's actually smaller since the beginning. This spiral is very nasty, because in order for it to grow, it needs to start feeding with other systems, because it's not connected to its source. I said that the crystal spiral is actually starting from 0. The Fibonacci spiral, since its first number is 1, it's actually starting from an artificial point, so we can kind of visualize that there's this quantum drain to create this start point, and then it needs to be fed all the time to keep growing and growing and growing in order for it to actually keep going and vampirizing on other systems and trying to eat the crystal spiral. The numbers of the Metatronic spiral are actually pretty much aligning with the reversed numbers of the Merkaba fields. So if we've got the electromagnetic Merkabas, I will talk about it, I think, on another episode, but just like so people so they can get a visual of it. The Merkaba fields normally should spin in a totally different directions and ratios than they do right now. And the number 21 and 30 and 34 are the numbers of the Metatronic spiral. And these are basically the ratios of our current Merkaba fields. And if you add these two numbers, you've got the 55. And this is the number of the Metatronic Death Star Merkaba. So if we take a look at this agenda, which was supposed to kind of finalize in 2012. The Metatronic Death Star Merkaba was supposed to be activated in that period, but they didn't succeed with that, which is very good. And we are kind of coming again to the moment when these two spirals, there is a moment when they intersect. And if the crystal spiral has been weakened at all, there is like a danger that the Metatronic spiral could override it. And that's when the problem starts, because if the Metatronic spiral would basically eat the crystal spiral, we wouldn't receive any frequencies from the source. And this system would very quickly start to go into fall. And that's when the end of the world, as it was predicted by the Mayans, that it would happen in 2012, that's when it would happen. But it didn't, thanks to the Guardian intervention. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit of an insight on how it's going to take place, because there's been many questions arising after I gave a little bit of the explanation on the Metatronic and the crystal spiral, on how it actually works. Like we've got the crystal spiral and the Metatronic spiral, and we know that in 2012 the situation has been kind of brought back into integration as much as possible, meaning that we were able to keep most of the quantum of the crystal spiral. This time a situation is much different and a little bit more complex. So I was kind of given by my higher self a small script that I'm going to read in a moment, which will give you a little bit of an insight on how it's going to be this time, because we've got a lot of different players in this game that would like the Metatronic spiral to completely dominate this planet. But actually it's been known since 2012, when the last time these spirals intersected, that the Metatronic spiral would never win again. So that's already, for some people that were pretty much approaching it with fear, to notice that it's not going to win. It will take a certain amount of quantum that is aligning with this spiral, but it's not going to take all of it. There are some people on this planet, and most of them aren't really conscious of that, and they don't even want to kind of think about it. Because once you know, there are many people amongst the spiritual communities that are kind of like a little bit in this fear mode, like, am I going to go on the right spiral? Is it going to be all right? Well, you're already kind of like thinking that you want to go on the right one, right? So you're already expressing that intention. But there are many people on this planet who don't even think about it. And they are pretty much programmed and pretty much locked in this 3D reality. And the Metatronic spiral will begin an intense clearing cycle in them. So it's not like everybody will align with the crystal spiral. Let's be clear about that. But many people will be able to begin their clearing cycle and aligning with the right frequencies. So this is a wonderful news. And it's all thanks to something called the Crystal River failsafe host, thanks to which we are able to receive the frequencies that will basically in the future help not just us humans, but actually the whole life field and the planet itself to be able to get hosted, which means kind of like receive. I've always been seeing, when I was asking about the host, like, okay, so how does it look like? I had this vision of these beautiful kind of like shining silver hands that were holding this planet, kind of like this, and the planet was in the middle. And they started to kind of like send these spirals of frequency all over the planet, and the planet started healing itself and being able to raise its frequencies enough to make its transition. So that's kind of how we can visualize the host, that these are these beautiful energetic arms that are holding us in case something is wrong. And they will hold us also in this upcoming period. There's a lot going on in the world, and we have to understand that this is actually a part of the clearing cycle. And I will, as I get into the script that I have received, you will kind of have an understanding why certain things have happened in Hawaii, in Israel, in Italy as well with the earthquakes, and actually back in Morocco, because that's how pretty much all the things have started escalating on the world since then. So there's a lot going on. There's many agendas trying to kind of make it more difficult for some people to reach the Christic frequencies, but that's all right, because they will never fully succeed to make their agenda come true, not anymore. Okay, so before I read that script I'm talking about, there is one more thing I would like to talk about, because we are in this, actually at the end of this cycle, where we've got the timeline split happening on the 8th of November, but this is also the end of something called the trumpet cycles, the trumpet pulses. This is something great. For those who are not aware of what the trumpets are, this has actually started in 2016, and it's a part of a bigger agenda that's been actually happening for quite a while here. So 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago, on the 8th of November 2016, the first trumpet pulse has been released. And we've got the 7 trumpets, and someone might already see the correspondence actually to the Bible, where they actually were trying to reverse our planet a lot, to the point where if we've got Earth and we've got Moon, they wanted to crush these two together and drag them into the black hole system. This would happen if not a certain intervention that took place at that time with something called the nomicide, which is kind of like another aspect of this beautiful host that is keeping our planet in integrity. So with the trumpet pulses that we were receiving every year in November, this has started affecting our something referred to as the light body very much. Most of you are probably already familiar with the term light body. It's kind of like this energetic body, which the physical body is also an aspect of, but it's actually like an energetic body that is on each of the dimensional layers. So like the etheric body, emotional body, mental body, astral body, angelic body, those which are often mentioned in the spiritual circles, they are all a part of the light body. With the trumpet pulses, if someone, this is basically a sonic technology, like the trumpet is, the name is suggesting by itself. What the trumpets were doing is that they started to put our light bodies on reversal. And the only way to escape from it was basically working with the plasma frequencies of this planet that were actually restructuring the light bodies, because the plasmas created the light. So this is like plasma is like a pre-light frequency that can override any template distortions. That's why with the trumpet pulses, it started to get a little bit complicated if someone at this time started just activating the light bodies without really working with the plasmas, because that was triggering a lot of different implant systems and causing a lot of template issues. Luckily, we have also started to receive, and that is connected also to that huge host that is running here. And that is a wonderful message, because when we look at it, when we have the host, we also, it's kind of like I noticed this tendency that every single danger that has been coming from that fallen agenda, there is always a solution to it. Or even if there is not a solution in the beginning, eventually it's found. And it was this way with the trumpets, that as each of the trumpet pulses was coming in November, we started to have a pretty tough period with the frequencies. Like, I've been having really hard times, especially last year when the 7th trumpet came, and each of these trumpets is basically affecting a certain chakra. So when the last trumpet came in 2022, in November, I was really feeling the pain at the top of my head, like exactly where the crown chakra is located. I had to induce a lot of plasmas to my system in order to be able to kind of like override this frequency. And many people have been struggling with that. This has been a tough year energetically because of these trumpets coming to the game, and the 7th trumpet actually carrying kind of like all of the subharmonic frequencies of the previous trumpets. So it was causing a lot of mess. However, in May, every year, as each of the trumpets started coming, starting from 2016, we have been receiving something called the chevron bursts. The chevrons are basically like very, very, very high plasma spectra that progressively start to override the trumpets. And there is a moment when they just like kind of like catch this trumpet and they transmute all the distorted frequencies that it brought. And very interestingly, the last moment, basically, how do I put that into words? There is something called here, when we look at something called the octant cycles, we are following a certain set of cycles. And basically it says that the 7th trumpet, it's the end snap of it, the end snap. And basically when you look into the definition of the word snap, it means to break suddenly and completely, typically with a sharp cracking sound. So basically, also on November, during this timeline split, this chevron burst of very high plasma frequencies will catch this nasty trumpet, and it will end this 7-year cycle of continually bringing these reversals. So that is a very good news. And at the same time, it is aligning with this timeline split. So I'm going to start reading now this small script I have received from my Guardian team regards to what's gonna happen on this, actually in over a week. I had this question about the snap and how exactly it should be interpreted. So the way I feel the snap, it basically means that the chevron burst is gonna catch the trumpet and the crest spiral is gonna catch the Metatronic one. So it will be like a double snap, which is very good. Okay, now I will get into the reading. So it's kind of like I've been asking myself this question in my mind. Okay, so are we gonna have it the same way that it's either like one of these spirals is gonna win, or what exactly is gonna happen? So here's the answer. In normal circumstances, these two templates, the Metatronic spiral and the crest spiral, will progressively start separating from each other, starting from that point of time in November. Thus, we will start to see more and more polarity outpicturing in our Earth drama for people on both timelines. So it kind of means that in normal circumstances, because they kind of started with what would happen if we weren't on the host. So we would start to see that some people would suddenly become invisible to us and they would be having their own drama, and we would be starting to see kind of a completely different reality outpicturing. It's gonna happen to some degree, but it's gonna happen in a little bit of a different rate. So the answer is that in current circumstances, the changes will keep outpicturing progressively, but basically as this planet is continuing on its pathway of the Crystal River host. So that means that the changes will be much more progressive. There won't be like sudden earthquakes, like very, very strong earthquakes. I'm thinking that the current earthquakes that took place in Morocco or in Italy, it could get much worse. Our planet has been getting through different resets, but they were always caused by plasma wars, where actually different ET races would come and start to seriously attack our planet, like literally an invasion. That's not the case this time because we are protected by the host. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with reading. We are still facing these harmonic frequencies from the Hadal regions that are being attempted to be opened before the May of 2024, before the Chevron Burst 8, to the gunfall systems. Progressive separation of the Christic templates from the Metatronic templates would ensure this planet full freedom from these areas. So, just so everyone has an understanding of what the Hadal regions are. When we are talking about the Hadal regions, it's actually like the fallen of the fallen systems, because we have something called the phantom systems, which are fallen, which are black hole systems, but they are fallen to a certain degree. When we talk about the Hadal regions, I mean, I get chills all over my body when I say this name aloud. We are talking about the gunfall systems. So systems which are like 100% fallen. And right now there are attempts to open certain areas on this planet that kind of correspond with their template distortions to these systems. Because if there is a certain level of a Christic quantum, they won't manage to open it. But if there are a lot of distortions and there are many sensitive areas on this planet, they will be trying to open the gateway to these Hadal regions so they could start feeding off with the energy of those places and the people who live there. That's kind of the case with the Middle East, that they want to, they unfortunately want to drag a part of the area of the Middle East into these Hadal regions. That's why we see the outpicturing of these conflicts, because there's literally a fight over there. And a similar case is actually with Morocco, which has like a very complex set of grids. However, Earth as a noble Nomi planet, which basically means that it has the host, and it's holding like, it's actually holding the host not just for itself, but it's also holding the opportunity for other fallen systems to get their ascension potential back. So, however, Earth as a noble Nomi planet has made its free will choice to integrate the Christic templates along with the Metatronic templates. The third uniting spiral, ensured by the Crystal River failsafe host and the guardians from the Ural Lake Conservatory, will clear and unify the two dueling spirals, beginning the process of grand clearing cycle that this planet will keep going through for the next 900 years. This gives the opportunity to all of the phantom fall, which is like partially fallen, and gunfall systems, which is 100% fall, to engage their own clearing cycles through the common host, which is our planet Earth. So that actually means that this time these two spirals will stop fighting with each other and they will get united by the third spiral, which is coming from the host, which is also, of course, like a Christic spiral, but it's the amplified spiral. So it will ensure the integration of the Metatronic spiral. The November split, November 8th and 9th, is the beginning of the grand clearing cycle, with ensured victory of the Earth reclaiming its full potential of ascension and gifting this potential to those who are willing to take it, no matter on which spiral they are aligning with. So basically it is giving anyone a chance to pick up the frequencies of the unifying spiral. So those who are kind of on a crest spiral will also start to pick up the frequencies from the central spiral. And there will be certain acoustics, they just told me, that will actually take a part of the frequencies of the Metatronic spiral to their bodies, and they will transmute it through their template. And this way, this integration is going to be taking place. So some of us will be assisting with basically integrating this Metatronic spiral literally through our bodies, which are like frequency pillars. And those who choose the path of the Christ will actually kind of get upgraded. So they will choose the path of unification. And there will be even more happening in 2025 when something called the Metatronic seed atom will get snapped. So we will have over a year to transmute a certain critical mass of the Metatronic spiral and basically unify it with this central pillar. And that's how those who will, of course, align on this proper timeline, those will start to perceive a totally new reality around them, where basically they will be still in the same reality field, but they will start to feel more integrity. So there will be a certain amount of people who are gonna kind of have to get out of here, because once this Metatronic spiral starts to get integrated, some people won't be able to stand that quantum, because whether they want it or not, if they are Metatronic, that spiral will start to like kind of try to override these distortions in them, and they won't be able to take it, some of them. So we might experience different kinds of shifts in people's behaviors and in their quality of life, and they will be feeling with themselves. And that's not a reason to be feared about anything, but this is kind of giving us a bigger insight that with the template separations, some people who won't be able to hold the frequency of the host, they will progressively literally get wiped out of this planet. But there, it's like everyone has their own path, and it is respected in the name of the Christ. So this is the answer that has been given to me here. And this is coming from the EFIA councils. And in here, we are basically starting to understand that this time, it's a much bigger event. It's ending the trumpet pulses that have been harming our light body for over 7 years. It's making us protected even more by the frequencies of the host. And it's allowing us to kind of start a new chapter in our lives. That's, I think, how we should see it, especially if we are aligned with ourselves. That means we get aligned with our higher self, and the choices, which spiral you go on, are basically the choices of our higher self. So it's already been kind of decided on the first place. Another question I received is what is expected during this event that will happen in over a week, and what will we perceive? Are we going to see this event in some way? So, in my humble opinion, this is a purely energetic event, this timeline split. I mean, those who are not so tuned in with the grids and what's happening in the grids probably are not going to feel it at all. There could be maybe some kind of an interesting, like the moon is gonna look interesting maybe, or there will be like a lot of stars visible on the sky, but this will be very, very small kind of details, I think. It is a purely energetic event, so I do feel like we might experience some clearings in our emotional bodies, even though that's been happening for a while, actually since September, that when I started working with different people on sessions in September, they started to, like kind of imprints from the past started coming out. And they needed to heal certain aspects of themselves in order to feel this integrity. So that's been actually happening since a while, but if someone hasn't still healed something about themselves yet, they could be sensing that, well, maybe you can do it actually just in time during this cycle of the split. And what also the guardians told me is that you may actually feel a lot of relief, those who at least are aligned specifically with the Christic spiral, because those who are aligned with the Metatronic spiral, they might actually start to feel like there is this bipolarity in them, that this Metatronic code within them is still fighting, even though the triple spiral will actually override it already. I don't think that any specific drama would escalate. There is a lot of going on anyways with what certain agendas are doing all over the world. I don't expect any certain escalation of these events. I actually think that the events could start escalating after the split, because that's when we might start to see these intense clearings taking place. Because what's been happening in Hawaii with those terrible fires, in Morocco with the earthquake, and what is going on now in Israel, it's a clearing cycle that starts a little bit earlier. And this clearing cycle is allowing the collective consciousness to clear the emotional imprints that have been stuck in there for a very long time. And basically, where was I here? I lost myself. Anyways, as I said, no specific drama should escalate. And what is happening? Yeah, now I got that. So what is happening right now with those different 3D dramas? It's the collective consciousness clearing itself from all of these imprints that have been stuck in there for a very long time. So if you feel fear when you're watching the news right now, you better turn your TV off, because they want you to be afraid. So you activate more of the Metatronic frequency within you. I have a question here on the chat. How will behavior and holograms be affected? So I think that with the behavior, actually the way I sensed it is that the peak of the worst took place on the eclipse 2 days ago. I literally felt this madness coming out in the collective consciousness, this frustration, this anger. But now it feels that it's kind of calming down. So, as I said, people who are aligned more with that Metatronic spiral, they might feel very bipolar, and this could lead to a certain type of behaviors, either like maniac behaviors. We are seeing that there is like an escalation of these mental illnesses, which are not mental exactly. They are actually very multi-layered, and usually the cause is pretty much energetic. But as I said, the changes that will happen directly in the event are gonna be progressive. What's gonna happen afterwards is a little bit of a different story that I'm gonna mention a little bit later. And there's one more very interesting thing that I kind of did a small research on, that when we were facing the last timeline split in 2012, but it was already starting to escalate since 2010, something called the Arab Spring took place. So again, we had this escalation of events on the Middle East. And it kind of felt like it was a change of the guard in these politician circles there. I'm not really much into politics at all, so I have really no idea whether something changed for the better or not. I think that, in my humble opinion, that was just one collective taking over the other. However, as you can see, there's this small pattern that the movements on the Middle East have always been escalating prior to these important events, because there's like a very specific set of ancient stargates in the area of the Middle East that are very important. It's also related to actually the times of Mesopotamia and the Summer and all of these ancient civilizations that lived there. There was a reason to that, why they were actually living in that area. So actually, there's quite of an agenda over there on the Middle East, and through the Middle East and this complex of stargates that they want to reverse before the split, and they're not going to succeed with that. They actually want to bring more of the Metatronic spectra into the grids. Another question that I had, which one is the next one? Okay, let's maybe go with this one. There's this question here. Will this be like a clear break of these spirals, or will it be a gradual reordering that will actually last for a very long time? So, as I said before, just to kind of summarize it, the Urea host, which is the advanced form of the eternal crystal river host, will continue for 900 more years. But during this time, many souls will be already having enough frequency to pass through the Truntin window, which is like kind of the passage that we go through back to the source. And the planet will be experiencing gradual changes as we progress through the cycles of the crystal river host. So that is basically the answer for this, is that it will be a gradual reordering where the triple spiral will have to progressively realign the frequencies of the crystal and the Metatronic spiral. There is also one more question here, and I wanted to answer that one, but my guardians kind of took over the pen, so the answer is much longer than I expected, but I thought that I will read it anyways, because the information is quite precious. So the question was, and I already kind of answered it, but kind of like this, another text is quite important to share, I feel. So the question was, on November 9th, will the crystal spiral surpass the Metatron spiral in strength? The answer of the guardians is going this way. There has been several attempts during the Hitaro, which was in May, like the peak of our electrical Merkaba, and the Hitalon, which was in August, the peak of the magnetic Merkaba. There were several attempts during the May period and August period to strengthen the Metatronic spiral of death, in order to make it snap at least 1/3 of the crystic spiral quantum. Once it would do that, it would get really bad, because considering still the level of the reversals on this planet, it would be very easy for Earth to actually fully align with this, with the Metatronic spiral, if more than 1/3 was actually hijacked of the crystic spiral. Major attempts have been made, including CERN particle accelerator, which is in Switzerland, in Geneva, opening the gateway to the Eye of the Beast, an ancient wormhole complex that was supposed to be later on connected to the Abaddon wormhole system of the Fatali. So basically this wonderful CERN particle accelerator is not as good as we think, and whatever those scientists are doing there, they are kind of led by certain forces to later open up certain reversed gate systems and wormholes. That has been also done in Israel. What's like this escalation in Israel actually was also caused by certain pulses that were released from 3 different places on Earth, and one of them was actually Switzerland, the area where CERN is located, which is Geneva. The experiment was successful only to a certain degree. thanks to the flames of urea wave that has descended on this planet on the 8th of August. So 4 days before that blending experiment, which took place with that CERN, the Guardians have released the flames of urea wave, which is another type of a very powerful plasma wave that actually kind of saved us at this point. And it happened, as I said, 4 days before the interdimensional blending experiment. And when I refer to the blending experiment, I'm talking about the fact that they want to actually open wormholes that are gonna lead to the fallen timelines where Earth has fallen, and basically it's being dragged into the black hole system. Part of the distorted quantum has been later transferred to the compromised gates on the Middle East to carry on with the attempts to snap the crest spiral. So it's like what they did in Switzerland didn't work, so they decided to transfer that fallen quantum that they managed to gather in that particle accelerator. They managed to transfer it through the sonic pulses to Israel. And that's why we experienced the drama there, because that's where like on the Middle East, as I said, the grids are more sensitive. So it was easier for them to trigger something, and they had to create like a layer of the 3D drama in order to be able to do certain experiments. So when the bomb is hitting the building, it's worth considering whether it's actually the bomb. That I'm gonna leave it to everyone's personal discernment. The Fatally agenda was aiming for their last plan that wouldn't... sorry. The Fatally agenda was aiming for the last plan, but it actually didn't manage. But they tried, as I said before, to hijack the 1/3 of the crystic spiral. But they realized that it wasn't the case, that they won't manage to do that. They already knew that in August. So they decided to basically trigger something in Israel. And they thought that if they do that, it would later slow down the expansion of the crystic spiral and block certain areas on this planet from receiving the organic frequencies of the crest spiral. And these areas on the planet, that the Fatally, which are like very, very dark fallen angelics, they refer to them as the Hadal regions, which are basically the areas on this planet that could be connected to the Abaddon wormhole, which is the wormhole system of the Fatally, in the center of our Milky Way. So what they wanted to do, in very simple words, is to, with triggering this Stargate complex on the Middle East, they basically wanted to create an opening to connect this certain area of the planet with the black hole system, with their black hole system, which is called the Abaddon. And they later wanted to spread these frequencies all over the planet. So the planet couldn't receive the frequencies of the crest spiral in the full quantum. However, thanks to the intervention of the Guardians, the expansion of these areas is progressively slowing down as we are getting closer to the timeline split. I've been experiencing that on my own, that there was this moment, actually even before the escalation of the events in Israel. I was on a grid work in Italy and I was feeling extremely heavy energies in the grids. And I had terrible sleep. That was either a nightmare or like just a dream that felt very heavy. And then it was actually shown to me that I was doing all sorts of grid work with other wonderful souls in order to actually close those big wormholes that they have already opened. So this situation has been successfully managed in a very, very quick rate. At the moment of the snap point, which is like the moment of the intersection, the crest and the Metatronic spiral will be unified through the central pillar that will release a burst of frequency to the Earth core. The source of the central pillar of unification is M31 Andromeda galaxy, which at the moment of the snap will transmit the spark of the Ark of the Covenant, beginning the acceleration of the process of the magnetic reconnection. For those who are not aware, what is going to happen with Earth is that it's going to come back to its home, to Andromeda, a certain part of the Milky Way galaxy. Because the Milky Way and the Andromeda used to be one galaxy. That's been even figured out by the scientists. And they are saying that they are getting closer to each other, and there will be a moment when they just like kind of come across each other and, I don't know, explode. No, that's not gonna be the case. It's gonna be a very progressive process that is gonna take place for the next 900 years. And through that process, Earth will become a part of the Andromeda galaxy. And right now, as we are receiving this third pillar, it's actually coming from the Andromeda. So we are, and actually the whole crystal river host, the energies from it are actually coming from the Andromeda galaxy. So we will receive this wonderful spark called the spark of the Ark of the Covenant, which will help the planet and its life field to synchronize with Andromeda and begin the process of aligning our templates with that galaxy. So that is very good news. So when we look at these mechanics, we see that we've got this triple spiral that is going to integrate the Christic and the Metatronic spiral, because it's still the dueling spirals. When we think about, I've been always kind of like into this context of the Trinity, that it's always there. Even when we speak about the light and the dark, these are still the polarities. They are unified by the consciousness, because the consciousness is aware that the darkness used to be the light in the future. It just got reversed. And that's the same way with the Metatronic and the Christ spiral, that they will get unified by the central pillar of unification, as the Guardians refer to it. And this spiral will become a triple spiral that will come to this planet and begin this wonderful clearing cycle. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And there's no need to be afraid about it, because we will manage it and we will be getting, that's why it's not gonna happen within 2 days. It's gonna be a process that will progressively adjust our bodies to the new energies that are coming in. Okay, let's see if I've got any other questions here on the list. Okay, so maybe let's get to this one. What is the best attitude to take at this time of the split? And how can I clearly, consciously choose the Christic path? So, first of all, choosing consciously the Christic path is not about the choice we make here suddenly during this split. We are just waiting until the last moment and we are like, yeah, I want to go on the Christic spiral. It's not too late, I guess. Well, it doesn't exactly work like that. It's actually a collective of the choices we have made throughout this incarnation and in all our past lifetimes, and actually the future ones as well, because time is simultaneous. So all of the choices we have made in the past and we will make in the future, they create a certain frequency potential that aligns us with one of these frequencies. However, those who actually already care about making the right choice, it kind of already means that they care and they want to align with the path of the Christ, and that there is a certain amount of the living light in them that will help them align with this Christ path. And even if there are some distortions, they will manage to clear them out. So that is a good news for everyone. And And again, I would like to mention here one thing, as there's been just a lot of fear campaigns among all sorts of communities, and it doesn't just include the current split that we are heading towards, but also like this funny plasma event that is supposed to happen in 2024, or all of other apocalyptic ideas given to us by the fallen angels. It's about the attitude we take. If we approach something with fear, we already attract the probability that something could go wrong. And why is that? Why are we already in fear? That is a certain program, a certain projection that is running in our bodies, that is running in our templates. And this is an aspect of ourselves that we need to clear. We have been held in this fear programming for a very, very, very long time. And now that we come to this moment, we need to start getting rid of it. Understanding that everything we think about, we manifest it. Our thoughts become things. And the more of the fear we attract to our fields, the less of these high frequencies that hold no fear, that hold just love and peace and unity, we are going to attract. So at this time, I would recommend everyone to kind of reflect a little bit on themselves and what kind of emotions and thoughts they produce in their mental bodies and emotional bodies. That is very important because we can see this tendency in families that if someone keeps spreading fear, like, oh my gosh, they said in the news that there was this disaster and that disaster, the rest of the family members also starts to pick up that fear. We are all the time in shields. That means we are in groups and we are picking up frequencies from other people. So it's also good to reflect what emotions come from us and which ones we unintentionally picked up from others. So I would recommend everybody to take a small reflection on themselves, on how they actually, how you guys feel with yourselves, and what would you like to manifest during this period? What path would you like to take after the split? Because the Christic spiral gives huge amounts of manifestation possibilities, of kind of starting a new chapter in your life. That's how you can treat this timeline split, that you are still in this reality, but you can open up yourself for something absolutely new. So this is something that I would recommend at this time. And when it comes to consciously choosing this path, I would say that the intention here is the most important. There is a certain exercise that the guardians have given me, and it's only like 1 minute long. So I'm just kind of going to read this right now to you, and you can kind of go along with me if you want to go on the Christ spiral or more like unified with this third pillar. So you actually bring the unity to your bodies. Basically, you can relax a little bit, close your eyes, and visualize the image of a triple spiral, kind of like on the back of your forehead. So you can kind of visualize that there is one spiral, then there is the second one, and then there is the third one. And just kind of visualize that it's kind of like circulating, it keeps spinning on the back of your forehead. I'm starting to get the tingling sensation on the back of my forehead as I start to see this. And this is very simple. If you want to catch the encryption of that spiral, and everyone might see different colors, kind of like see this in a little bit a different version of their own, but it's about the visual and the intention, or mostly about the intention that we spread here. And as you start to see this triple spiral, take an inhale into like this spiral and catch like a small spark, as if you wanted to catch a little bit of that frequency from that triple spiral, and exhale it to your heart chakra. So just kind of like the area of your chest. So you just visualize this triple spiral. You take an inhale to catch a spark of this triple spiral, and you exhale it down to the heart chakra. That's the first step, quite simple. And the second one is that you exhale the spark from your heart chakra with your intention that you want to follow the crest spiral. Actually, you can say this affirmation. You can say it either now aloud or just in your head. I align with the Christic spiral of unity. And repeat it 2 more times. I align with the Christic spiral of unity. I align with the Christic spiral of unity. And then just gently exhale your spark with your intention down to the earth core, so the planet could pick up your intention and encryption. And now think that if every single human being on the planet would do this short exercise, how much it would beautifully affect our hologram. Okay, so before we finish, we've got, I think, 2 more questions to go. Let me see. Yes. So there's a question here. If we manage to get out of the Metatronic spiral, will we then see less chaos? The answer from the Guardians goes this way. And that's how I also felt about that. So they kind of like confirmed what I was picking up. We might see the escalation of the events as we progress through the octant cycles, which are these cycles of the crystal river host. It feels like certain imprints and collective karma needs to be cleared first before we can make our progression towards full union and becoming one with the Urea Earth, which is like the future version of Earth that will become in this 900 cycle. After the split, though, we should feel less chaos in the energetic field, as well as in our personal anatomy, as long as we manage to clear most of the miasmic imprints from our DNA and the cellular structure. So, as the Guardians call this cycle that begins after the split, the grand clearing cycle, it means that there will be a clearing on the planet, but there will be also a clearing in our personal templates, because as above, so below. So like the planet is gonna be going through the same processes as we will. So I do feel there will be kind of like less chaos when it comes to interference from other beings to those who align with the Christic spiral. But there could be still some clearings when it comes to different escalations among certain agendas that will be still kind of trying to disturb some people from aligning with the right frequencies. Another question here. Does this also mean that those who align with Metatronic choices will have less and less power? The answer is that to some degree, yes. Because basically, those who align more with this Christic spiral and will start to unify any kind of distortions that are left over there, will start to pick up more and more frequencies from the triple spiral. And we will see that those disharmonic frequencies of the fallen angelics, they just don't work in the same way. The template separation means that we'll progressively begin to release a different set of frequencies that those who are aligning with the Metatronic spiral. So there will be a certain group of people. I've always seen that, and I've been meeting quite a lot of people like this on my sessions, that there is a point where they will start to be like full-time grid workers. Full-time grid workers meaning that they will be frequency pillars spreading the energy to the planet. There will be a constant exchange that you're going to send energy to the planetary core will send it back, you will spread it to the grids, And that's how beautiful clearing cycle will start to take place. So I do feel like there will be a point where we will start doing a certain type of group grid work in the future. So that's something definitely to look forward to. And this kind of energy work, this will give us more power to create along with the frequencies of the source and enable us less engagement with the 3D drama. So it's something that quite a lot of people have been experiencing for a while now, that whatever is happening in the world, and that's this kind of like a conscious detachment that we are learning, that whatever is happening outside, if you keep a peaceful space within yourself, the reality around you is also peaceful. So there will be more and more of the feelings like this, actually. And there is a really interesting question here as well. And by the way, I'm coming to an end. So if anyone would like to ask any questions on the chat, I'm also open to answer anything basically related to this topic. So the question is, can I do anything for others who have not received this information yet, who are not quite aware of what's going on? So as I said, the choice has been already made on the level of the higher self. It's kind of like our 3D minds are kind of aligning with these choices right now. There are certain people on this planet, like I was shocked once when I was having a session with a woman who was quite 3D minded, but she agreed for a session with me because she was having some physical problems, like with her health. And I look at her plasma template. I'm like, it's not holding any distortions. And that's amazing because she's never been really working with any techniques at all, no meditations. She was kind of just like surrounded by this 3D world, even being kind of like her family was very much into religion. But that actually helped me realize that there will be many people who actually consciously chose to not be quite aware of those things, but they are processing still the energies for this planet. So there is a higher contract that they are doing, but they are not necessarily aware of that. So that's quite interesting to see that certain people, like, I especially see that actually among people who don't live quite in this physical abundance, but they have so much richness in their hearts and they are ready to do everything for other people. They are just good, and like nothing would cross their mind to do anything which is wrong. So that's basically what those people are, and we might see them coming out. So I think that there's no need to worry about this when it comes to whether someone will go on this path or not. It's been already decided on those higher levels. And the last question, because I know I've been talking quite a lot already. So which kind of like activations or techniques are recommended in this period of time? So there's this there is a certain set of techniques called the schismatic techniques, which includes working with something called the flame of Eliza, which is actually also in the shape of the triple spiral. So for those who are interested, you can either reach out to me or just kind of Google it. The flame of Eliza is a triple spiral, and this kind of correspondence will help us align more with those Christic frequencies of the triple spiral. And as I said before, working with the emotional body, mental body, solving also on the 3D level any kind of problems you might have with anyone in your 3D path. That's all up to you, but actually sometimes it's good to solve certain things on that pattern. So to kind of wrap this up, we are in a wonderful cycle. It's a clearing cycle, and there is no need to worry on which spiral we will go, because everything is aligned with the choices we have made on all of these higher levels. So I thank I'm really grateful to be here, to be able to share this information. And well, I guess see you next week. And if you have any kind of suggestions on anything that you would like me to expand, as there's been a lot of different names and information, I'm open for any kind of suggestions. So thank you for tuning in and see you next Monday.